July 19th, 2001, The Cote Story. As written by Karen Dean to support the nomination of Dr. and Mrs. Keith Kent for the Albany Medical Center Prize in Medicine and Biomedical Research. This is the story of a wounded healer and the woman who got him past the accident that ended his career as a doctor. He was a pioneer in head and neck reconstruction, a teacher, and a researcher. It's also the story of a woman whose attitude is, when it rains, go looking for rainbows, and backs up that optimism with strength and common sense. Ultimately, it is a story of perseverance, of uncompromising dedication and loyalty to an invention that will touch virtually every person's life, improving your health, making household chores easier, and even keeping the windshields clear. It'll impact on almost every aspect of modern life. Trained as a dentist, Keith Kent specialized in maxillofacial prosthetics, making artificial tissues to reconstruct the mouth and face of people who had been disfigured by a birth defect, disease, or accident. While in dental school in 1973, it was love at first sight when Keith was called to see an emergency patient. Future wife, Renee, had come to the dental school clinic with an abscessed tooth. Fixing Renee's teeth ended up as Keith's senior project. Please release property. And she has been his inseparable mate for 20 years. Renee was managing her family's business, a company that manufactured and sold flags and banners. Keith found satisfaction and quiet recognition in his professional life, teaching medical and dental students while pioneering the development of new techniques and materials used in reconstructing damaged faces. Because he worked at teaching and research institutions, his focus was more on treating patients and teaching students than on making money. Renee shared her husband's values and was proud to support him in his work. She worked at office jobs as he finished his years of training and established his teaching career. Dr. Kent's research focused on developing new, safer biomaterials, including adhesives for holding artificial parts onto tissues that are generally damaged or irritated and sensitive. The materials that are used to replace missing tissues tend to be made of inert synthetics, so they won't interact with normal body fluids and bacteria. This lack of reactivity makes it difficult to get adhesives to stick to the artificial parts. These adhesives may be the only thing holding and artificial body parts into living tissues. The problem was that the artificial parts were held on with toxic adhesives like bookbinding cement, which was too harsh for the patient's sensitive tissues. Keith was trying to find a better material to act as a glue for skin. Keith developed a way of making these inert biomaterials sticky on one surface so that they would stick to the living tissues that were being rebuilt. He then got the idea of making a very thin, Teflon-like inert polymer that could be made to easily stick to materials and would offer a new level of protection. Kent's idea was to develop these polymers so that they would stick closely to any surface, making it feel smooth, dry, and slippery, while making it water repellent and non-reactive. Unlike Teflon, which is applied to surfaces under high temperature, high pressure, and corrosive conditions, he wanted his coating to be simple to apply, wiping easily onto a surface by hand at room temperature. He started developing this coating on his own time, stirring up witch's brew of glop in Renee's kitchen. He concocted these coatings of non-toxic medical-grade chemicals, working late into the night after putting his son to bed. The invention began years earlier. First, I literally stumbled across a way to make the material itself sticky. This material proved effective as a safe way to bond things to skin, whether holding a bandage or an artificial ear in place. His first use for the new polymer was to coat teeth so that bacteria couldn't stick to them and form dental plaque, which causes gum disease and tooth decay. He knew the coating would ultimately have thousands of uses. In January of 1984, Dr. Kent was delighted to accept an invitation to join a delegation of medical teachers going to South America to demonstrate contemporary methods of craniofacial reconstruction to physicians there. Preparing materials for demonstration in 120 degrees of heat in an inadequately ventilated workspace, he inhaled a dangerous quantity of some very toxic solvents. He had enough time to close up the solvent bottle, securing his work area, and give quick instructions to his colleagues before he collapsed. He returned home with extensive damage to nearly every major organ in his body. His lungs couldn't withstand Boston's frigid wintertime air, nor could they stand the exposure to any of the solvents and other materials that were essential to Kent's specialty, maxillofacial prosthetics. Dr. Kent could no longer treat patients, do lab research, or even spend time in a building where someone was using solvents. He would spend several years recovering from the damage to his liver, regaining his memory and speech while learning to carefully control his environment. Paints, glues, and many aerosol propellants make Kent ill. He is even bothered by printing ink from recently printed magazines. Renee, who was 4 months from delivering their second child, had recently learned that she had cancer, which couldn't be treated until after her child was born. With them both unable to work at their regular jobs, Renee told her husband that they would have to start selling his inventions rather than giving them away. She decided to turn his coding experiments into a commercial success and urged him to apply for a patent. Once their second son was born and Renee's cancer had been successfully treated, the Kents resumed developing Keith's invention. Renee continued Keith's pre-accident lab work, mixing chemicals on their patio, while Keith directed her from a distance inside the house, separated by glass doors. Some of their most exciting discoveries came serendipitously. While they were trying to turn their thick glop into a more user-friendly formulation, Renee splashed some of the coating on the patio. Later, as she hosed off the concrete, she noticed that the water beaded up and ran right off the concrete wherever the coating had splashed. This was their first hint that the coating could protect concrete from water and ice damage. After moving to Florida to escape the northern winters, another spill, this time along the length of their driveway, demonstrated that the coating prevented the growth of mildew. Years after the spill, no mildew grows along the trail cut by the coating, although it grows abundantly everywhere else. Lounging at home in jeans and sandals, Kent says he was not a businessman and originally wanted to sell the technology to a big chemical company. But Keith and Renee have a dream, and they hope their new family of coatings will bring them the money to build it. We'd like to have a research rehabilitation facility that is self-sufficient. My dream is to have it on an island off the Gulf of the coast of Florida, where families can come to a vacation environment to support their loved ones during their rehabilitation. They know that the task ahead of them has many challenges. Some challenges were at first incomprehensible. Industrial espionage, for example, is a real problem. Several of Kent's inventions have been stolen by their competition. Renee is, in fact, currently pursuing several patent infringements against major companies. But Keith and Renee's primary effort is the development of new, improved products ahead of their competitors, rather than merely fighting lengthy court battles for patent infringements. Renee found attempting to deal with big companies was frustratingly slow and difficult. She has combined her business skills with Keith's inventions and the help of new family of friends to form a research and development boutique and a company that manufactures products that contain Keith's patented, easy-to-apply, non-stick coatings. Renee's uncle, Mickey Colasar, is the graphic artist who designed the company's logo and the other artwork. The Kent's oldest son, Jared, suggested their industrial trade name, Megagard, during a company brainstorming session. Youngest son, Joel's class used Kiss Cote to study a science program on moisture, looking at how different materials interact with water. A host of friends, many with professional backgrounds, have joined the Kent's business. A prerequisite for staying with the company, it seems, is becoming part of the Kent's extended family. Everyone's sights are high. Renee hopes their coatings will replace Teflon, as well as all of the toxic marine bottom paints used today. Healthcare applications, however, are what most excites Keith and Renee. The new line of skincare products they have developed acts as an invisible bandage, protecting injured and sensitive tissues. University tests showed the dental coatings keep plaque from sticking to and growing on teeth, and its protection withstands 6 months of toothbrushing with an abrasive. Its many healthcare applications almost assure its success. A few examples of its amazing benefits are: 3-year-old Matt P. burned his fingers grabbing the wrong end of a July 4th sparkler. Like all the children in the neighborhood, he asked Renee for some of Keith's Kiss Care jelly stuff. Matt woke his mother up at 5 a.m. the next morning to get more of the stuff for his fingers and then went back to sleep, his burnt thumb more comfortable. Jessica L., 5 years old, burned her hand taking hot pizza from the microwave oven. She ran to her mom asking for Kiss Goop to fix her burn. Nathan K., 7 years old, fell off his bike and skinned his face. After coating with gel, the wound healed quickly without scarring. Tanya O., 72 years old, stopped using prescription antifungal formulations after years of foot problems by twice daily spritzing of Kiss Care liquid. Dr. L. W. Luria, a Tampa plastic surgeon, recommends his skin cancer patients protect their skin with Kiss Care liquid, since he finds it protects against sun and other environmental damage. The Kents are excited about how the many various aspects of their business are taking off. Keith and Renee hope they will touch all of our lives with their new family of products, whether protecting a newborn baby's skin, fighting tooth decay and gum disease, or protecting the clothing we wear and the buildings we live in. Keith and Renee know their work has already started a revolution in both healthcare and industrial coatings technology. Kent has dental help. That must have been like the headline for the next part of an article that I didn't copy, because there's nothing else underneath it except the email from Dr. Kent to me saying, "Dear Carole, Renee mentions every day we need to come visit you and deliver the Kiss Coat products for you and the cats. Loads has been happening both personally and with the business. I have others interested in the funding of our dental project and have a dental distributor wanting to bring in investment to help him secure an exclusive distribution license for dental. If we work with them, we no longer have all of the marketing, packaging, and distribution headaches. Also have a Kiss Coat shopping cart that we will hope to have online in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I still need to spend a few moments with you answering your several questions too. You continue to get great press with Jamie about the cats on Easy Street. Congratulations. Tomorrow's kind of crazy for me. Are you available at all Friday or this weekend? Let us know what works best for you. See you soon, Keith." So I think this is the first time I mention Dr. Keith Kent and Renee and their sons, but maybe they will show up later on, and if not, I'll just give you a brief overcap in that I think they just came out originally as like tourists of Big Cat Rescue, which was wildlife on Easy Street back then, and they would sometimes help me take care of the many cats and kittens and everything that we had back then, the early 90s. And so one of the things that was so nice about Renee is she would bring me food so that I didn't have to cook. I had something that I could eat. And she brought way too much food by, in fact. And sometimes they would come out and do like parties for the volunteers, and they would set up a barbecue for the volunteers. But the Kiss Coat products were things that we used for a number of different things. And what we found was we were using it on ourselves and we were using it on the cats. And we would use it when the veterinary products or the human care products weren't doing any good. So if we would always try to use the things that the vet would prescribe, and it was like, this just isn't working, this cat's not getting any better, it's not healing, especially with things like in their eyes, where they might have scratched an eye and then you're having to put drops in the cat's eye and the cat's not letting you put the drops in the eye, but you can spray them with this Kiss Coat stuff. And it seemed to create like a barrier to let the eye heal. So that was one of the best uses that we found for it. And then we actually did a test back in the 90s, I believe, on 2 cages. So back then the cage wire that we got was single galvanized. Now we use double dipped galvanized, so you don't have to paint it. But back then, within about 3 years, you'd have to paint the cage, and so we paint them with Rust-Oleum, which makes it look like it's rusty because the color is rust red. But we tried painting one cage with Rust-Oleum.
Okay, I'm just gonna head that way, so I'll be there in a minute.
And then the other cage we painted with Kiss Coat, which took bloody forever, but we got it done. And the Kiss Coat cage held up just as good as the painted cage. So it's amazing that you can use the same thing to protect the metal on the cages as you could spraying into your eyes. And I've used it on my eyes, I've used it on my teeth, I've used it all over the place. I haven't used it in many years, and probably everything we have has expired by now, so I probably ought to get a new supply from them, but we've just not had anything that didn't respond to medical needs since then that we've needed to re-up our stash. So we may talk about that more later. I don't know if that shows up later, but in case not, this is who they are and why I had this whole long thing in here, because I was really investigating what kind of people these were and what kind of products these were before using them on our cats, of course.